So we have a new ban list issued by Bushiroad. It's going to be effective May 1st. And so it's time to give an updated deck profile for Crestrose and how it was impacted. One of the big major changes is that you cannot use the Crest if you're playing Nightrose copy from G era, but you're able to use Nightrose from the V series with the Crest, which this deck will focus on. The other restriction that we have to mitigate as well is the choice restriction with Beatrice and Negrolily. And so we are giving up Negrolily to use Beatrice because Beatrice not only is helpful for that combo, but it does so much for our deck in attack extending, main phase setup, and much more. Let's get right into it. Check out Dueling Guard's deck boxes, playmats, and binders. The great quality products that are anime based. They continually have more anime options becoming available. Use the affiliated link in the description for a 5% discount on your next purchase. So we are max copies of Nightrose Feed. The benefit of this too is that Bad Bounty turns are a little more consistent. Going first, you will have to ride up to grade 3, but you cannot use the history collection stride, which is unfortunate because you will get the protect gift immediately. So that's why another reason we relied on the G era Nightrose. But with that being in mind, you can still make the use of this turn being able to do some multi-attack. It really depends on the resources that you currently have, while also setting your hand much more better with a grade 3 heal. You want to be able to, not only that for survival on their stride turn, but also be able to increase another card in the G zone coming into your turn to help with your Obadiah turn to revive 4, but also scale the Crest much more quicker and already start off with 10 plus to the front row. As mentioned, we are rocking the Beatrices though. This is very important. Again, you use this card during the main phase to set up like Ghost Ship, Skull Dragon. You can even aggressively countercharge with King Serpent more than once per turn. But during your attack extends, you're doing your Nightstorm plays and even your like stride battle phase calls. If you miss the Crest too, this is also another grade 3 target that you can ride, fall back into. Real quickly with the 1-ups, Skull Dragon is still our big beater that we want to rely on. Again, with the Crest, we can use Ghost Ship and other rigors that hit numbers though. Then we have one copy of Nightstorm, again, attack extending. This is also a hollow target for the Negrabone from G era, which we do play in this build. But this is easily your attack extender to get to 4 attacks on an Obadiah turn while having Huntley active as well. And then later on, you can further extend attacks to have enough push with the Crest and close out games. So one of the things that I went back to was Forbidal, because we have to go back into the Obadiah turn in most cases to set up and also really build a board from that and generate advantage too. Forbidal just helps with that. You'll be able to get it with Greed Shade instead of Sea Strike and Nullgraph. That's also got hit by the ban list too, so we actually can't play that card, which is really tough at that point, but we added another Greed Shade to help with that. So you can still grab this from your drop zone with the Obadiah effect, or if you later draw into it, this can help make it a lot easier to set up on a Bad Bounty turn too, during your main phase. The other thing too, if you want to think about in terms of the metagame too, you want to consider cards such as Bracing Angel Ladder. If you expect decks like Highlander to show up or Narukami too, that helps deal with that too, and other disruptive plays. One of the things that I think about with this new metagame that we're going into is that depending on the build, more than likely it's going to be Crestrose without the Negrolily play, so then you don't have to worry about the mirror match in terms of disruptive plays. And then also Harry, depending if they really want to dedicate a multi-setup to make sure they're able to extend. If they're playing the stage Harry, that takes a little more pieces. So Gruesome isn't as live as quickly as possible, but it can be. So if things like that really are something that you want to consider for Bracing Angel, otherwise you'll just go back on consistency with Forbidal essentially. We are still rocking the grade 3 heals. One, if we need to survive early on, this is super helpful in that early aggro too, but you want to get this to hand. That way you're able to G-Guard immediately, help scale the Crest much more quicker too. This grade doesn't really matter anymore because C-Strike was specifically grade 2s or greater, but cards like Greed Shade can just grab it regardless of grade 2. You could consider the one that is Dewey the Ghosty to countercharge or sword charge. It really depends on your resources. The fact that we don't have to worry about disruptive plays anymore, that means we use less CB even during our opponent's turn. So that's actually really good in that respect too. And then of course we have consistency with Riveting Fronge for the grade 2s. We want to look for those Crests, Mulligan, Ride Fixers. You got also attack extend, so don't forget about this guy. We're still rocking the 3 Column Bards. It's really good turn 2. Be able to get Ghost Ship 9 times out of 10, but also other pieces like Greed Shade and set up that hand much more better, much more easily, especially if you're the one going first and you need to get a grade 3 heal for the following turn as well. As mentioned already, we are playing 2 copies of Greed Shade, so I bumped this up. This is basically C-Strike's replacement. You want to make sure that you set up your hand a little bit better too. The thing with Greed Shade versus C-Strike, it is a 1-for-1. You're not necessarily plussing like we used to do, where like you add a new card, you're not discarding. But with Greed Shade, you do discard and then add the card. Also be careful with milling too. This could also deck you out, especially if you're going against the Mega Colony matchup. If you're not too careful on your milling and deck count in that sense, you could lose because of deck out later on. For the 1-ups, I'm still rocking the King Serpent. It's a really good card. Again, you can countercharge more than once per turn with this card. Not only during your battle phase, but even your main phase, you can just retire over it and call it again and be able to get your refund back. This helps also add cards to the soul so then you can Soul Blast and then potentially use. And again, if you want to see those combos too that I did in my prior guide, with King Serpent being able to make Obadiah turn 6 to 8 attacks pretty easily, that bouncy easily to 10 attacks plus, and then of course Phantasm even like a 12 attack turn 2 on top of that. You could also play Jesse the Ghosty if you really value Jesse that way. The thing with Jesse is that you have to have it attack to get the counter charge too. This you can just Superior Call behind your Vanguard if you want, or as a beater that will get retired by Negrobone G, for example, or just get called over. I feel like this card with the Crest is just much more worth it. You could also play both of them too. So if you feel like the other cards don't like add value to you, you can just add both Jesse and King Serpent and have just easy counter charging essentially. Still rocking the Ghost Ship, beater, draw a card, definitely helps build a hand. So you definitely want to capitalize on this, especially since we don't generate 2 protect markers. We'll only get the 1 protect marker when we ride Nightrose V. So it's just helpful to draw into potentially an actual PG type Sentinel from our main deck too. So Cannoneer is an interesting card. Still playing it because if your opponent decides to leave like a Hongli on the board, you can get rid of it during your main phase, during your battle phase too. It's just that there is no Negro Lily play anymore. So Cannoneer's value has gotten lower in a way, or it just doesn't come up as much. So you can make the argument if you want to take it out completely. But then if you do have a Honolly to deal with on the field, you can't get rid of it unless you have like a stride like Dragoot to be able to retire rearguards on the field. But at that point, I feel like you still want to have at least 1 Cannoneer still. Another grade 2 that you might want to play, especially if you do expect a lot of Norakami, is Gold Dragon 2, because that way you can get your cards back from the bind zone and you don't have to sweat so much against that matchup too. Onto the grade 1s we have for the Crest Giver. You want to maximize on this. As mentioned, there's nothing much more to it. Again, you are locked behind Nightrose writing, so your Nightrose V is key. And then we are playing 2 Tommy D versions, so that way we can directly search for Nightrose V. We could also grab it from the drop zone, especially against like Mega Calling matchup if we need to be able to rewrite successfully and much more easily too, so that helps a lot too. You can play Tommy V, Tommy G. Really just depends on what you value. I just felt like because I'm dedicating to this is much more consistent and just grabbing the piece directly without having to call a Tommy to the field. We're playing 1 Negrobone V series so that you get that main phase revival. It'll go back to the bottom of the deck, so that can help with the 30 count with Bartholomew, so that's still good. And then of course his second copy, but from the past, is Negrobone G. Because we're using the Crest, I just like this card a lot better. It makes it easier not to depend on a front row rigger that can attack extend. This can boost anything, and then you can continue relooping to an extent. It's not an infinite loop, but you can reloop 2 to 3 more attacks potentially with this card, thanks to getting into Nightstorm and then Nightstorm again repeating with Beatrice into something else kind of thing. Since we do not have a disruptive play, we have to mitigate high multi-attacks in a different way. I decided to go to 2 Honolly. So if you're using Obadiah a lot of time to get your pieces, you can get your 2 Honollies in the process and be able to leave them on the field. And it's just one of those things that if they can survive on their own, then they can leave them there. But if you need to have like a turn or 2 still against a high multi-attack, then you can remove the Honolly per turn essentially. You hard limit their attacks in that sense, and they have to play through that. So it just makes it a lot harder. And just having the second copy makes it a lot less prone to like, they only have 1 Honolly, I just need to get through 1 or deal with it once per turn or something like that. But you can at least have the second one if you want to. If you don't like the second Honolly, you can play Anchorage Franklin. That's the new grade 1 V promo. You're able to G-guard with it, so it's a lot more consistent on G-guarding to increase this Crest scaling. And it does add a lot more to your defensive quality to your hand too. And then lastly, we're playing Sanctitude. You want to be able to use this. It's just really good in this metagame still. Grade 0s, we were playing the Grenache that can countercharge. You still need to countercharge to an extent, especially if you want to aggressively extend your attacks. You want to be able to do something your following turn, and he helps a lot. Then your V starter is your V Grenache. Again, you need the name too, so you're able to draw a card. And then if you go second, you get the ticket shoot in addition. We have 3 Chad the Ghosty. This helps with consistently striding, so that's still important. 3 Rampage crits. Soul is appreciated, but it's not as necessary, but it's just another crit that defensively you get the draw, which we do appreciate. And then the 4th copy is the 30k Sentinel. Again, we have to still have Sentinels. We're getting 1 less protect marker than we usually do if we went, the Ban the Realm turn back in the day now. But this helps with 1 card guarding too. And then also you can use this to revive with Necronora plays too. And then 2 more crit in Rough Seas. This is still something that I'm rocking with. Again, it's a Rough Seas that can go into Soul during your main phase. You don't have to worry about a crit going into Soul during your battle phase. A field, you can make room for stuff that you care. That's a booster, that's attack extending. Also, if you need the immediate Soul as well to play with it, you can do that too. This card is also a great target early on if you use Riveting Frange to get something that's grade 2 or less. And sometimes you just have like, this is your best option. So you could just grab it and potentially it can get you deeper into the next card that you might have been trying to search for. Another consideration with crits too, you may want to include 1 or 2 copies of Cody the Ghosty with the Crest power-up. That could be another attack extender from the drop zone that your opponent may not be as predicting to, so that could be a surprise attack extender. But again, if you have the extra CB, that's something that you can look forward to as well. We're playing 2 drop PGs, again, Sentinels. Again, you can use Negranora too to bring this from the drop zone to the Guardian Circle and be able to perfect guard that way. So it's just a very useful thing to have access to. And of course, the last trigger is the OT. So I think you can play this one, the Stokeo one, or you can play the purple OT. The benefits is just, this one's always live. It's always beneficial. You heal as well. You get the crit, so you're still aggressive. If your opponent tries to no guard an Obadiah turn, expect at least 1 critical trigger. It's sometimes you double crit, so this is just add to that pressure. The purple OT, I see the value of it because you want to get out of your damage zone, but into your hand and potentially extend more attacks that way. It really just depends on your attack patterns too. If you time it just right, you can benefit from the extra attack from that too, while healing the damage still. Now into the G zone harmonics, because you still need to play it to get the ticket shield and damage yourself on unlocking. 2 copies of Bat Bounty still. I feel like you don't need the 3rd Bat Bounty, especially against like Mega Colony anymore, because it's 2-1. Which is nice. And so this is restanding. This is great with Nightrose V still. So luckily this is a lot more consistent. We could always fall back into our big Obadiah place. And again, you get your pieces and you set up. They also get 5k. Don't forget about that too, on top of the Crest power up. And again, you can do like 6 to 8 attacks with attack extenders while benefiting from the Crest. And this will also flip during your main phase. So all of your units will immediately benefit from the additional power from the Crest that same turn. In case you are damaged tonight, you have the Obadiah that was retrained. This is free to flip something, so you're increasing the Crest, and you're able to revive something, and this is potentially come up with Gize decks. And also, this can be something where you flat out just ran out of CB. It just depends on your situation. There's niche cases, and you're not a GB8 at that point too. 1 Phantasm, so sometimes you have that mid-game play where Phantasm may make sense too. It also gives power, it also gets crit too, so don't forget about that. Bartholomew is still our game closer. You want to get to the 30 count and be able to close games with this card. It's just really that good. 1 Bellanera, so if you can't attack and you're about to deck out, you can stride this. And if you have enough hand, then you can rely on attack extenders with the Crest power up to be able to get at least 1 or 2 damage in to seal the deal. And then use your hand to retire any Guardians that they have, making it harder for them to actually stop all your attacks too. So I am trying 2 copies of Negro Sunlinger because it's a Persona stride, so you have to flip an exact copy. This is interesting because, again, it's probably because I don't play Bracing Angel Ladder, so if I need to get through something, my Vanguard can also call during that battle phase. There's different strides that you can do. You can do the Bat Bounty to Nightrose play too. So this is just another option, but I feel like this could be changed out to maybe Megiddo as a potential. You could add the 6 G-Guard if you want to. There's also different options like the GB8 if you're not including this just yet. So it's something that I was trying, but I don't know yet if I'm happy with this card or I want to make room for something else too. The other benefit is that it does flip something, and then also you'll get to call something to further attack extend, and that same card will get an additional power up for 5k for each card face up in the G zone too, on top of that. So think about it as like a double Crest power up for that single unit too. This might come up more too if you're trying to do just 4 or 5 attacks, because you have to deal with a Honolulu too. So maybe you can rely on making your Skull Dragon or your Night Storm much more bigger, making that more threatening. So again, very niche scenarios. Lastly, with the G-Guards, I've included Negro mode, because if you're going first, you need 2 G-Guards so you can survive as well, but also when you go back to your following turn, your Obadiah can now see 2 cards face up in the G-Zone. You can call 4 rear guards, and your Crest power up will be 10k plus. So this G-Guard in itself enables that, especially if you're going first. Otherwise, you have to use double Oriana, so you CB and then reduce the crit, but more than likely you won't have 10 cards in the drop zone, so it's really of a waste. So that's why I did with Negro mode instead. And then later on, we're able to use Negranora to be able, again, flip more cards face up in the G zone and be able to guard much more efficiently from the drop zone too. But yeah, that's Nightrose in a nutshell too. So again, use this as a temple build. Feel free to tweak to your preference what the expected metagame is. If you want to see more of the combos too, I made that video months ago that you can click on and check that out with like Phantasm Turn, Obadiah, Bat Bounty as well. I've also considered about G Nightrose with Negro Lily too. You could actually make some old school plays like back in the day, G era. You may not have Beatrice, but as long as you have the rear guard that you desire to revive on the field at the end of your turn, you can still use that rearguard during your opponent's battle phase too. So 9 times out of 10, we used Negro Lazy back in the day to get anything else that we wanted. It can be Cannoneer, it could be Mick the Ghosty. However, I feel it just may not be as worth it to. Plus, you had to play cards like Impex to make sure that column is protected for most stuff. So that way, when you do retire with your own Negro Lily, you can still have access to that play too. Let me know in the comments below too if you want to suggest different cards or maybe combos or other potential options for this deck overall too. And also check out more of my deck profiles if you're interested in seeing other ones. Bye!